Okay, my question is, and you started to speak about it earlier, where the difference between having compassion and empathy. If you're on a high-flying disc, and somebody close to you, like children, come into your presence with bad news or something that's bothering them, and that automatically brings you down.
Well, here's the thing. It depends on how long you've been sustaining your high-flying disc. You get the idea of the better you feel, the higher your disc. That's something we talked about a while back. But we talked today about what you're bringing to the room. So let's say you gather with a group and you've not really been tending to your vibration. You've just sort of been somebody who's observing whatever's. So you are empathetic, which means whatever the strongest vibration in the room is, you're going to sort of become a part of that. Because law of attraction sort of draws that from you, because it's the most active vibration that's within you. So the steadiness of your vibration determines whether they suck you in or whether you suck them up. And some of them are not suckable, uppable. But your desire, especially with someone like your children, is so much for their well-being that even though they're not ready to come up because they haven't been practicing it, you care so much that you're willing to go down, because being understood by them and getting them to understand you is the most important thing to you, rather than being in alignment with your source energy. There it is right there. And most people are looking for love in all the wrong places, in that they're looking for agreement or understanding or resonance with some person, so much so that even when they're not in a good feeling place, you'll go there. That's why you want to dress the way you think they want you to dress. Or that's why you want to eat the way the trends are. In other words, you don't want to stand out as someone that's weird. There are so many people who want to blend into society because they're looking for approval from their society or from this person, rather than finding alignment with who they really are, with their true self, with their evolved self, with their expanded self, with their whole self.
So what action should be taken in that situation?
Well, in that situation, you really don't have a lot of choice. Because what you are entering the room is what's going to play out in the room. Let's say that you have a mixed bag of vibrations, and concern about your children is one of them. Let's say you've been observing them and you've been noticing that things aren't going that well for them, and rather than taking your own bounce from your own desire and thinking about who they really are, you've been fixated, most people do this, on who they are. So you've practiced the vibration of their struggle without meaning to, all the while wanting it to be better, but you practice the vibration of their struggle. If you are like most parents, you talk to other people about it. You get together with your good friends and you talk about your kids a little bit, and about the or you read the books that will help them. And so you've got active in you more about their struggle than you do about their solution. So that's who you are walking into the room. And so you don't have any resources to feel otherwise under those conditions. But let's say instead of that, let's say you've walked into a few of those situations where you felt empathy and nothing helped and it just got worse. And so now you've launched enough rockets of desire and you acknowledge that you want to be of advantage to them. And so now you're not with them and you find your thought, and let's say this, you've awakened without any of that momentum active in your vibration, because while you slept, it subsided, and then you brushed your teeth and got something to drink, and then sat for meditation for 15 or 20 minutes and tuned into the frequency of who you really are. And then you, because your children are the most active thing in your vortex, if you have children, your vortex is speaking to you as it always does, and you're receiving. And you have this thought about the brilliance and wonderment of your child. And in your aligned state of alignment, that thought feels so good. And then that thought turns to another thought of what that person was like when they were little, and how fresh and free they were. And then that thought turns to another thought about some loving experience that you've had. You're just having this festival of lovely thoughts because there's no resistance active within you. You meditated and you created a new room for you. So what you bring to the room, haven't said this before, when you meditate, you bring to yourself, to that room of meditation, someone different than the person who's been worried about stuff. So now you are this pure positive energy in concert with your pure positive source energy, in concert with everything that you care about this child of yours, and you are now beginning to receive thoughts. Now, we're not saying that in that very day you will rush out and say the perfect thing to that child or that person, but what you will do is get ready to be ready to be ready to be ready, and more thoughts about their beauty and their power and their success will come to you. More things you will remember and more good timing you will witness until your vibrational altitude or attitude, they are really the same thing, will become new about this person. So next time you see them, you'll be a different person coming to the room. You'll come as a compassionate person, not as an empathetic person. You'll come as a person aligned to who they really are and what they really want, not aligned to what they've got and what they don't want. You'll come as a person tuned in, tapped in, turned on to your inner being and to their inner being, and you'll still behold them just the same. You'll look at them, you'll be in the room with them, but you will be a vibrationally different being, you see. You'll be someone who will more likely evoke better feelings from them. You'll be the one controlling the room. Now, we don't want to seem arrogant and we don't want you to misunderstand, but when you come to an Abraham gathering, we control the room. We've got you outnumbered, for one thing. There are so many of us here. All of your inner beings are on our team. Here we are knowing who you are. And you can misbehave all you want, but it's not going to upset the energy of this room, not this room. And the readiness of you who came to the room, you wanted to be here. Only a few of you got dragged here kicking and screaming. When we come to the room, we are in a place that is susceptible or in likelihood of alignment, you see. And so what goes wrong with so many dear humans is that you don't prepare yourself to go into the room. You just go. You just go remembering the same stuff that happened in the room last time you were there. And sure enough, the same stuff that happened in the room last time you were there happened again because you didn't do anything different. Your vibration wasn't different. Your point of attraction wasn't different, so you got the same old.
So we have to practice the different vibration before the situation happens again.
Yeah. But don't do it to change the situation. Do it because it's more satisfying. When you're not with your child, when you're not with someone who you love, who has a problem, which is a more satisfying thought? They're failing or they can have success? Which is the more satisfying thought? They're miserable or they're on their way to happiness? Which is a more satisfying thought? Is the same old, same old, same old, or things can improve for everyone? In other words, you have to practice when it's easier finding those thoughts, because when they're right there oozing their discontent, it's not easy unless you're really in alignment going in, you see. And sometimes this is something worth thinking about. When you're all tuned in, tapped in, turned on, going in, you're really ready for it. Usually you've shifted the energy around them enough that they're more ready for you than they have been before too. But let's say for whatever reason they're not more ready, and you're worried that they might find you uncaring. A woman said to us one day, "Oh, Abraham, my daughter expects me to be there for her." And we say, you can't be of any value if you be there for her. You've got to be here for her. But to most of you, it feels like, well, then we're in two different places. If I'm here and she's here, then I'm really not there for her. Yeah, you are. You're there like her inner being is there for her. But you have an opportunity to coax her into alignment. In other words, your humor and your lightness and your knowing and your certainty. That's what attraction is. You know those people that you call attractive? They're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. They've got the leverage of source energy radiating through them. And there is always a part of you that wants to be there with them. And so sometimes they will keep arguing for their limitation, and it will feel to you like they're trying to suck you in. They're not trying to suck you in. They're just doing what they do. And it has sucked you in so many times. You think they did it to you, but they didn't do it to you. You let it happen to you because you were not in a vibrational place to sustain it. it's like throwing yourself into a current of a river that's a strong current and then being mad at the river that it swept you downstream. If you don't want that to happen, get in your river in a boat and have an engine on it and be prepared to do what you want to do in the river. Or don't get in a river that's moving that way. Get in a lake where you can control yourself in a more satisfying way at first. And before you know it, you are the river. You are controlling the stream of all things. You get to decide what the current is and where the current goes and the value of it.
This question has to do with healing, correcting chronic physical conditions.
Yours or someone else's?
Mine.
So chronic, what does the word chronic mean to you in terms of what we've been talking about here? Chronic means
I've been thinking about it for a long
practice
time.
thought. Chronic means a thought I continue to think.
But it kind of snuck up on me. I didn't want it. It just kind of happened.
People say it just came out of the blue, and we say, not really, it came out of the oblivious, meaning you weren't at that time so aware of the importance of satisfaction. So you let yourself think thoughts that aren't satisfying, watch television for a little while, and those advertisements will cause you to feel dissatisfaction about your physical apparatus. They will convince you that you are vulnerable when you're only as vulnerable as you believe that you are. And so the question is?
Well, when there's physical evidence in this time-space reality by X-ray or MRI.
But physical evidence doesn't mean diddly squat. Physical evidence is just this point in time and what the vibrational state is. That really is all that it is. But we acknowledge that it is more difficult once something is manifested to focus otherwise. But that's why you practice on easy things first.
So what would be the best course to change it from what is?
To get your mind off of it, because when you put your mind on it, you're going to repeat the same patterns of thought.
So to not think about it at all?
But that's tricky. When you say, I'm not going to think about that, you're thinking about that thing you're not going to think about. So you got to find something else to think about, something else that you allow to gather enough momentum that it is satisfying.
The opposite of it, or just something
The opposite of it isn't a good idea, because the opposite of it just reminds you of it. Because it's the same subject, just different ends of the stick. That's what goes wrong with a lot of people. It's like putting a happy face sticker on the empty gas gauge in your car. If you don't see it, then maybe you won't end up on the side of the road with no fuel. Every subject's two subjects, wanted on one end and absence of it on the other end. And often when you activate a subject, every time that you activate a subject, you lean in the direction of what your practice thought is. So that's why thinking other thoughts that are off the subject is such a good idea. It's a wonderful thing coming into your own power. It's a wonderful thing knowing who you really are. It's a wonderful thing being satisfied with where you are. And that's the thing that we're asking you to use your ability to focus just a little bit. We're not asking you to look at something in your life that isn't satisfying and be satisfied with it. That's not what we're asking. We are just asking you to find some way, somehow, to feel satisfied, which means you might have to change the subject for a little while. You could have 10 things that are really bothering you and one thing that feels good, and you could focus upon the one thing, and the 10 things that are bothering you would evaporate. Or you could have 10 things that are going really well and one thing that isn't, and you could focus upon the one thing that isn't, and everything could turn to that. In other words, your mind is powerful. It's all about focus. But understanding the power of the focus that is already within you, that's really what this gathering has brought to the forefront more than anything else. That you already have a focused energy within you that was there when you made the decision to come, and was there as you came, and is there every day that you've been in your physical body since. And that focused energy is more aware of what life has caused you to become, because that focused energy has become it as you've lived the life that has caused it to become. So all that's happening is that you are constantly becoming more, which you must keep up with if you are to be satisfied. And so sometimes people say, Abraham, you teach selfishness. And we say, yes, we do. Indeed, we do. We admit it. We teach selfishness because you only have your perspective. And your perspective is self. But as you tune yourself to the true perspective that is self, so that you become ultimately selfish, which means the whole of you, the whole of yourself is focused with you. Oh, are people going to love you, you selfish bugger?